In a way, it's kind of just like a fancy Sophie scarf, and I know with 100% certainty which pattern I will be making with this, and will be a really nice, slightly more refined winter accessory. Hello and welcome to my summer of one skein wonders. I was looking through my stash the other day to see what summer yarns I had, and I ended up not finding too many summer yarns, but I found a lot of single skeins here, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to make something with all of these this summer. Not one project with all of them, but I will make one project with each of them, right? Does that make sense? So I have 9 single skeins here for you today, and we're gonna go through them and talk about some patterns that I might make with them and decide which I'm going to cast on first. So I am just going to jump on in and start with the first yarn right on top here. There's really no rhyme or reason to this. I'm just pulling from what's on the top of this bowl that I gathered all of these yarns into. The first yarn I want to talk about is Kaos Yarns Organic Soft Merino in the color Mysterious. This is a 100% organic merino. I believe it's a fingering weight or light fingering weight yarn, and it's this kind of, I don't know, mysterious color. I've talked about this yarn before. It's a petroleum, greeny, bluey, charcoaly, brownish gray, bluey black. I really don't know how to describe this color. I have one ball of this. Of course, this is my single skein summer, and it is 225 meters. I have 2 patterns I'm thinking about for this yarn. The first is Lagoon by Erica Lopez A. This is a really pretty triangle scarf that features some nice like textured stripes, as well as a few of these little popcorn baubles throughout it. I think this is just such a fun, simple, sweet little scarf for fall and winter, and it would look really nice in this dark, I don't know, mysterious color. The yardage requirements for this pattern are 130 to 180 meters, and I have 225 meters, so I wouldn't be able to get 2 of these scarves out of this ball, and I really don't know what I would do with the leftovers, but I think this is really cute and would be a great gift knit for my sister. So that is the first one I'm thinking about. And the second pattern that I'm thinking about is a hat. It is the 2020 hat by Melanie Berg. This hat requires 179 meters, so again, it would not use up the entire ball. I'd have a decent amount left over. This beanie looks like a very simple, classic beanie, except for this one little section on the side, which almost looks like a fishtail. It really reminds me of fishtail braids. The designer also has matching fingerless gloves. So if I were to knit this hat and I had a little bit of leftover yarn, I could buy another ball of it and make the matching fingerless gloves. So then I could have a little set. So that is my Kaos Yarns Organic Soft Merino, and my next yarn is also a Kaos yarn. That is Kaos Yarns Luxury Soft Merino in the color Majestic. This yarn is also a 100% merino wool, and it is also 225 meters, and I know with 100% certainty which pattern I will be making with this yarn, and that is the Rebea Scarf by Chris Berlin. This is the sweetest little neck scarf. It is a garter stitch scarf with these kind of like dimply, frilly, cabled ruffles along the edges. In a way, it's kind of just like a fancy Sophie scarf, but what I love about this is that when you roll it up, it looks like a rose. I think that is the sweetest thing I have ever seen. I just imagine it in I have a bowl that I keep like little scarves and winter accessories in, and I just imagine it rolled up, sitting on the top of the bowl as a little rose, just dainty and as cute as ever. I do think this is a pattern that I could just knit until I have 25 grams of yarn left and then do the decreases. I think with those like little ruffly, frilly things, I might need to do a little math, but it does seem like a pattern that I could use almost this entire ball of yarn for. So that is the Rebea scarf by Chris Berlin, and that is what I will be knitting up in this really beautiful purpley red yarn. The next single skein is this Faro Gotland wool by Knit For You It is kind of like a purpley brown color. I'm not quite sure. I feel like it shows up more charcoal gray on screen, but it definitely has almost like a black bean color to it. It almost reminds me of refried beans, which is kind of a weird thing to compare it to, but the color kind of has like a refried bean look to it. This is a 70% Gotland wool, 30% Falkland Merino yarn. It is a worsted weight yarn and I have 300 meters of it. This is the yarn that I have the most patterns for. I have 4 ideas. The first pattern is an Italian summer scarf by an Italian knitter. This is a really pretty garter stitch scarf with some really nice eyelet details. And again, something that I like about this scarf pattern and that I like about every scarf pattern I'll mention today, because I do have quite a few more, is that you can just knit until you get to the halfway point in weight and then start the decreases. My second pattern contender for this Knit For You Faro wool is the Linnea Scarf Triangular by Refined Knitwear. This is a garter stitch triangle scarf with some radiating knit stitch stripes. I think it's just a really pretty little scarfy kerchief bandana type of pattern. I've knit one triangle scarf pattern before. It's my honey scarf and I absolutely love it. I wasn't sure if I would like more like a bandana triangle scarf, but I actually really do. So I'm interested to knit more bandana shaped triangle scarves, and this one has been on my mind for a while. And the fourth pattern I am thinking about for this yarn is the Varlin scarf by Irene Lynn. I think this is such an elegant scarf pattern. It is a double knit stockinette scarf. What I love about it is that there's a little slit where you slide one in to hold it closed on the front. I think it just looks so beautiful and would be a really nice, slightly more refined winter accessory. This pattern comes in 3 sizes. The smallest size uses 210 meters, the second size uses 320 meters, and the third size uses 420 meters. However, I'm wondering if this is again one that once I get to halfway-ish through the ball of yarn, I could just start the decreases, because I'd have about 90 meters left over if I were to do the smallest size, and that's like not a small amount. So that is the final pattern idea for this Faro yarn. I really don't know which I will end up choosing for it, but I do have all of these in my queue in Ravelry. So when I do get around to knitting this yarn, I don't know, I'll make the decision then. The next single skein is Lana Gatto's Feeling. This is a 70% merino, 20% silk, and 10% goat cashmere yarn, and I have 140 meters of it. I have it in the color 19034, which is a really nice rusty brownish red. For this yarn, I have 2 patterns I'm thinking about, but I am leaning slightly more towards one, so I think I'm gonna go with the one I'm leaning more towards, but I will tell you what both of the patterns are, and if you think I should change my mind, let me know. So the first pattern I'm thinking about, and the one that I most likely will not do, is the Falling Leaves scarf by Iris H. This scarf comes in a variety of sizes. The meterage requirements are 115 to 415 meters. As the name suggests, has a really lovely leaf-like pattern to it. It is done in kind of this like wavy stockinette garter stitch combo that has a few little lace details to make like the spine of the leaves. This would be a really pretty scarf in this reddish brown color. It would be perfect for fall. However, I really want to use up the entire ball of yarn and be sure that I'm using up all of it or as much as possible. And so for that reason, I am fairly confident I'm going to make the Sola scarf by Anne Vensel. This scarf uses up 137 meters and I have 140 meters. So that is practically the entire ball of yarn, which is fantastic. This is such a gorgeous mini scarf. It is these alternating garter and knit stitch stripes. That is, it looks like it's knit just kind of straight, and then it comes to a point at either end where these garter and knit stitch stripes meet. So I think I'm choosing this one purely because it uses almost the entire ball of yarn. However, if you think I should make the Falling Leaves scarf by Iris H instead, please let me know. I would love some opinions. This was a really difficult decision for me, but I want to use as much yarn as possible. I don't want to have any scraps left over. So for just that reason, I will most likely be knitting the Soulless scarf by Anne Wenzel. Okay, we are at the halfway point. This is my 5th to show you, and I have 4 more after this. This is another ball of yarn that I know exactly what I will be making with it. The yarn is PRU Yarns Soul DK in the color Ox. It is balled up, so you can't really see all of the colors within it. I'll try to get like a good close-up of it. But this is a like purpley, reddish pink, kind of like variegated, dyed, hand-dyed looking yarn. I'm not sure if it is hand-dyed, but nonetheless, I think it is a very, very pretty yarn. And this is one that I want to knit up in something very simple. I was thinking the Sophie scarf, but I've knit 2. I don't feel like I need to knit more. I do love it. It's a very good like stash bustery project, but I wanted to try something else, and the pattern that I decided on is the ESO scarf by aka Nora Knits. She is a YouTuber that I love. I think she might be one of my favorite knitting channels to watch, and she just put out her first pattern, and I am more than excited to support her. She talks a lot about the scarf on her channel, but if you have not watched any of her videos or heard her talk about it before, the ESO scarf is a triangle stockinette scarf with these cute little dimples along the increase and decrease edges. And I think it is just the perfect scarf to showcase some really fun, pretty yarn. This is another scarf that works for any gauge, any yarn. All you do is knit until you've knit about half of your yarn's weight, and then you do the decreases. So I am really looking forward to knitting this scarf, not only because I want to support Nora, but because I think this is one of the oldest yarns in my stash, and so I'm very excited to knit with it. My next yarn is one that I really have no clue why I bought it, and that is the Schopel Wool Zauberball Crazy in the color Paws in Blau, Paws in Blue. I guess that would be my assumption what it means. And it is this just wacky yarn. I have seen people use it before for socks, and I have no interest in making socks ever. This yarn is so out of my comfort zone. I do love blue. I wear a lot of blue. I wear a lot of black. I wear a lot of white. So I thought this would be something that I would knit up and wear, but I just haven't reached for it yet. And when I was looking at different projects on this yarns page on Ravelry, I saw a lot of people knit the Night Shift by Andrea Mowry with this yarn, and I thought, you know what, I love that. I want to do that too. So that is what I'm going to make with this yarn. This is not a single skein or a single ball project. I will be buying 2 more balls of yarn, probably of this Schopel Zauberball Crazy in 2 different colors, and I will be knitting the Night Shift by Andrea Mowry. This is very out of my comfort zone, very not something I would wear, but I do have a few people in my life who might, so this could be a gift knit at Christmas time. This is a pattern that I have seen all over Ravelry. I think there are almost 12,000 projects, so a ton of inspiration on there, and a few people actually have knitted up with this exact yarn, so it was nice to see what other color combinations they used in conjunction with this to give me some inspiration. So I will be buying at some point 2 more balls of this in different colors and knitting up the Night Shift by Andrea Mowry. This next one is another one that I know for a fact what I will be making with it, and that is my Mano del Uruguay Silk Blend in the color Rust. I have 252 meters of this yarn. I knit up a Sophie scarf in this yarn a few years ago, and I just think it turned out so pretty. It has this kind of like stripy look to it. I think you can really see on camera. It picks it up really well. And with the remaining yarn, which is just shy of 2 skeins, I want to knit a matching hat. So I was looking for a hat pattern that incorporated a lot of garter stitch but wasn't completely garter stitch and uses as close to 250 meters of yarn as possible. And I found one, but what is even better is that it is a free pattern. So this is the Broken Garter Slouch Hat by Crab and Frog Designs. Again, it's a free download and it uses between 183 and 229 meters of yarn. So if I do the largest size, which I think I probably will have to do, it uses almost all of the yarn I have. I think I'll have about 20 meters left, which fine, so be it, not a problem. And now we are on to my last two skeins, which I am actually going to be talking about together because I want to hold them together. And that is my Malabrigo Finito in the color Chameleon, which looks to me like a melted popsicle. It reminds me so much of like summer as a child, going to the ice cream man and having like a bright blue popsicle just like dripping down my hand. That is what it reminds me of. And the yarn I want to hold it with is Blue Sky Fibers Prarie in the color Juniper. This is I guess 100% alpaca yarn. It's 53% Surrey alpaca and 47% Huacaya alpaca, if I'm saying that correctly, I don't know. And I don't think I said it, but the Malabrigo Rio is 100% merino wool. And I think these two would just look, oh, they're both unraveling, just spectacular held together. This Malabrigo yarn is not a yarn I think I would wear. I do really like the teal color of this, oopsies, of this Blue Sky Fibers yarn. And I like the teal color within this Malabrigo. But on its own, I really don't know if I would wear anything knit out of this. However, I think this Blue Sky Fibers yarn will mute this Malabrigo yarn a little bit and make it a little less, I don't know. I'm hoping it'll just soften it overall. So I want to knit something with these two held together, but I really have no clue what I want to knit. I was thinking about another ESO scarf if I like how the one that I am planning on making knits up and turns out. But if not, I would just love thoughts and opinions on different patterns for this. This is really a yarn that is so out of my comfort zone, and I typically don't knit with these kind of like tie-dye looking yarns. I tend to prefer solid color yarns. So if you have any pattern recommendations, I would really love them because I feel stumped. So that is everything. Those are all of my single skeins that I want to knit. I mean, I'm not going to finish all of them by the end of the summer. That would be a little ridiculous to have it as a goal, but I think by Christmas, because there are a few in here that I think I could see being gift knits. Before I go, I said we would decide which pattern I'm going to cast on first. The two that I am in between are the Rebea scarf in my Kaos Yarns Luxury Soft Merino and my ESO scarf in PRU Yarns Soul DK. I think between these two, I think I'm most excited about the ESO scarf. I'm really excited to see how this yarn knits up. I've had it for so long, and I think this purpley color is really pretty, especially for this gray, rainy week we have coming up. It just feels right for the weather. So keep an eye out for my ESO scarf in an upcoming podcast episode. But that is everything from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a lovely day. Bye.